Moms for Liberty really worked miracles.
We have a crisis in America in public education. This is the future of our kids and our country.
You are joyful warriors.
And we are just getting started. Welcome to the Fire of Liberty show. It's a show where we bring you warriors from the front lines of this cultural war. It's usually moms and dads from Moms for Liberty. I'm Tina Deskovich, the CEO and co-founder of Moms for Liberty. Usually, as I said, we bring our moms and dads that are chapter chairs leading in the fight to the show to share their stories, how they got here, so you can be uplifted, inspired, and encouraged. But today we have a very special guest for you. It's our first time branching outside of Moms for Liberty, but she is a frontline warrior like nobody's business. I'm very excited about today's episode. But before I introduce you to her, we want to play, and she doesn't know we're playing this clip, but I went down a rabbit hole last night and became a big fangirl, even more than I was, of our guest today. And so I want to play this clip from 1986. So dig back in your Wayback Machine. And we're going to show that right now. It's a 1-minute clip.
And what a star she is, Mary Lou Retton. I'm talking about Jennifer Sey.
Oh, she's terrific. Jennifer really had a fabulous competition here, especially when you consider Jennifer suffered a broken femur at the World Championships last year. She has made a super comeback here.
After the women's compulsories, the leader had been Do Yamashiro, but she couldn't rise to the occasion in the optionals. And Jennifer Sey went to work right here on the balance beams.
She sure did. Jennifer had the pressure on her, but she works very well on the balance beams.
17 years old, only 5'1", 99 pounds, just came off her first full year on the U.S. team.
Jennifer's coming up for a back walkover, back straddle down. And if you're crooked on this move, you're in trouble. That was very nice. Up into a needle scale.
She seems quite poised up there.
Oh, she looks very confident. She's coming up for a dismount, which is a round-off double full. Took a step. That was a great routine for Jennifer.
And that gave her the confidence to go on. In the floor exercise, though, some difficulties.
Jennifer has beautiful dance. If you watch the poise and the grace in her movements. Now watch her face after this tumbling pass. She's hurt her ankle. You can see that little grimace. It hurts her.
So in case you haven't caught on yet, today's special guest is Jennifer Sey, and we are excited to bring her here today. Not only was she the U.S. Gymnastics national champion in 1986, and that was Mary Lou Retton talking about her, giving her all kind of praise. She has produced Emmy award-winning documentaries. She has written 2 amazing books, and she is founder of XXXY Athletics. Welcome to the show, Jennifer Sey.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me, Tina.
Are you still happy even though we started off with that video?
I am familiar with that video. And in fact, my ankle was broken in that competition. It wasn't just injured. It was broken going in. Long story. We'll get to the abuse in gymnastics, but a pretty serious injury that I was competing on there.
That's some of what I want to talk about. So as I said in the intro, I'm a fan of yours. I would say we're friends, mostly since COVID and on X and in that area. But last night I dug down in the rabbit hole. I actually watched all of the 1986 competition. There's 5 episodes. It's cut on YouTube if anyone wants to go watch it.
Did you happen to watch the 1985 World Championships where I broke my femur?
No.
Which is on YouTube, which I have never watched in, how many years is that? Since 1985. It's a lot of years. But every once in a while, my dad watches it and calls me crying. So, yeah.
You broke it at the championships?
I broke it on my last event at World Championships. I fell off bars and broke my femur. And the reason, that national when I broke my femur, I really thought that was it. Like, that's a very serious injury. And 9 months later, I came back and won USA's. And no one thought I would be there. Like, I walked into the competition and people were like, how is she here?
That's some of what I want to talk about today. Because, I thought we were going to talk about XXXY and the work you're doing today. But as a side note, and I told you this on the phone the other day, and not many people know this about me, but in first grade, my journal says I want to be an Olympic gymnastics star. So awesome. I was obsessed back then with Mary Lou Retton, obviously, and Nadia Comaneci. Like that was, she was everything back then.
Oh, yeah.
And so if there's any moms out there watching right now that are in our age range, they probably had a lot of that same, everything was about gymnastics back then. And
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I started gymnastics right around 1975. I was 6 years old, just a few years after Title IX passed. It passed in 1972, and I lived in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And 1 year later, Nadia Comaneci would win the Olympics. She was the first gymnast to get a perfect 10. She was only 14 years old. So there were gyms popping up all over the country because suddenly parents could put their daughters in sports and they could have an opportunity to compete in high school, to compete in college, to earn a scholarship. That wasn't true before Title IX passed. And I think gymnastics was one of the first sports that really kind of blew up after Title IX. It took a while for some of the other more kind of boy sports, but gymnastics really took off. And then Nadia set that on fire. And the fact that she was 14 was really meaningful because we related to her as little girls. She wasn't this grown woman. She looked like a little girl, which is fraud in its own right. But all I want to do was gymnastics all the time. So, I was obsessed with the same people you are. Except I was competing against Mary Lou. I'm a couple years younger, but not many.
And I was at the community gym at the end of the street, not doing very well, by the way, on the little low beam, doing dip, step dip, step dip. And
you might have lucked out. You might have lucked out. That might have been your saving grace to not keep doing it.
Well, it seems like that because when I watched that intro video last night, it was 1 minute clip. I think there's so much packed in there. The one thing that jumped out at me first was they were, first of all, saying your weight all over national news. It was, she's 5'1" and 99 pounds and your weight was only 99 pounds. And so that took me back.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the most abusive aspects of the sport. Everybody's familiar with the rampant sexual abuse because of the Larry Nassar case, which we can talk about. But the bullying and the shaming, I was weighed in twice a day at the gym. Our weight was announced on the loudspeaker. I was in big trouble at that competition because I weighed 99 pounds and not 95 pounds. I was 5'1". I was 17 years old. I grew 2 inches after I left the sport because I just started to eat. I'm 5'3". Tall 5'3".
I'm 5'3".
Yeah,
I'm feeling so connected today.
Yeah, I was 5'1". I mean, we were weighed in. It's not just the weigh-ins, which is bad enough with a young teen girl, but the point was to stave off puberty. The point was to keep your body fat low enough that you would not go through puberty. There was a belief at the time that I think has persisted some, although things are changing, that this was a young girl's sport. If you grew taller, if you got bigger, you couldn't do it. There was that belief, but it was also the aesthetic. And this is a judged sport. So we had a judge that was local that would come in our gym and, do these mock competitions and judge us. And I'll never forget, she said to me, you shouldn't have bangs. It makes your face look fat. Doing gymnastics at your weight is like doing it with a 10-pound bag of sugar strapped to your back. And no one's going to give you a good score at this weight.
Wow.
That weight was 101 pounds. But that's how it was every day. And if we don't coach fat gymnasts, you're a fat pig. We had these plasticky sweatsuits. We'd have to do an hour extra conditioning, just running in circles to lose water weight. I don't care how you do it, lose 3 pounds by tomorrow. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. That's brutal. And I thought at the time, I'm just doing this because I have to. It's the situation. This is the culture. I have to do this. But it doesn't work that way. You carry it with you when you leave the sport. So it was a struggle afterwards to find a healthy weight, find a healthy way of viewing my body, and be normal.
Well, those are formative years. How young did that type of abuse start?
Well, I was really lucky in that the gym that I trained in when I first made the national team, I had an awesome coach who was an amazing woman who really believed in the power of sport to develop strong minds and bodies. She really cared about the whole child. I was there until I was 13, at which point I begged my parents to go to a different gym. I was already on the national team, but I was sort of top 12, and I really wanted to break into that top 6, which is where you go to things like world championships, that kind of thing. And so I sort of did a tour of the best gyms in the country, including Bella Caroli's, and I chose one in Allentown, Pennsylvania, which was closer to my house. I lived in New Jersey because I could come home on the weekends. I lived there, but I could come home and see my family on the weekends. And that's when things really changed for me. I was about 14. And from the outset, this gym was just so much more brutal than the one I had really grown up in. And they did not care about the child at all. We were just little cogs. And if you couldn't hack it, you were out and the next girl was in. And at the time, it was one of the best gyms in the country and that they had a lot of national team members. And it was a little bit of a bit of a deal with the devil. It was like, we will give you this thing that you want. Top 6, national champ, if you do everything we say.
This is what it takes.
This is what it takes, which is not true. And, they would argue to this day, and I have an update on them, that it's just tough coaching, that it's not abuse. I would argue that is completely false and that it's not even a fuzzy line. It's a bright line. Because if you do the things that I just described, I mean, they were notorious for their horrible behaviors about weight. We would travel for competitions. They would search our bags. They would take food off the table away from us. At national championships, that one I won, I remember after the first day of competition, I ordered a yogurt at dinner. And they came and hovered and said, "You're not going to eat all of that, are you?" A yogurt. I mean, it's crazy. Like, we're prepubescent, pubescent girls. But they prey on, girls are pleasers when they're young. Maybe not anymore. I don't know. I have one that doesn't seem to be.
Not to their parents.
Which is good. I'm glad she's not.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get to that level and I wanted to please them. And I endured all manner of abuse. So there was the weight stuff, but I mean, I was training on a broken ankle. They had a doctor come in every few weeks with a little black bag and shoot me up with corticosteroids. No parent approval. I was 16 years old. I could go on. There were 2 pedophiles on staff. I somehow evaded them, but they were there and we all knew it. And if you know it and they do nothing, what does that say? I mean, I'm not saying that what I endured was as bad as what the girls who endured sexual abuse went through. But if you're in that situation and everyone in the gym knows, and the coaches and the adults and the parents do nothing,
it's permitted. It's allowed.
And then how do you feel as a kid? Like, you don't matter.
It's interesting to me because I had never made the connection that Title IX went into effect right before your sports journey. And so you really have lived the whole span of Title IX. And you're the story of Title IX. You benefited from Title IX.
I did.
You witnessed the problems maybe that came about with Title IX, it sounds like, by allowing pedophiles in and others and abusers to take advantage of females in sports. And, we'll get into this conversation in a little bit, but where you are now, standing up for women's spaces and women's sports and what you're doing, it's just remarkable for me right this minute to see this journey of what you're doing.
I found that I think a lot of the women fighting hardest for the protection of Title IX to keep boys and men out of women's sports were early beneficiaries. They know what's at stake. I find a lot of the women that are most outspoken are my generation who benefited from Title IX, even if they just did high school sports, because that was not an option. People don't understand. My aunt, who is much older than us, in her 70s, was a tremendous athlete. There were no opportunities for her. She couldn't do track. She played on the boys' golf team, but some of the sports that she even could have qualified for, they said you can't, because this is the irony of ironies. There's no facilities. There's no locker room for you. Isn't that crazy now, given all the locker room shenanigans? So, I think so many of us who fight so hard for it were beneficiaries, and we recognize what could be lost for our daughters.
In just 50 years. That's what's remarkable. This isn't 100, 200 years, 500 years ago, something that happened. This has been massive changes in every direction, just in an over a 50-year period.
But what's really cool, I think, is the massive increase in girls' participation in sports, not just in the last 50, but it's really accelerated in the last 20. Nearly half of college athletes at this point are women.
It's fantastic.
It's not quite half, but it's close. It's pretty cool given the benefits. And I say this as someone that suffered enormously in my sport and coming out of it. But I recognize the value and the benefits. You learn, even if you don't go to the level that I did, you learn the value of hard work. You learn how to lose and get up and keep trying. You learn persistence and diligence. And, girls who compete in sports have a better view of their own body, ironic given what I went through, but they do. They have fewer, they're less depressed. They're less likely to get in trouble in high school, to get pregnant in high school, to graduate high school. Like, we need this for our daughters. It builds self-esteem, healthy minds and bodies.
So let's go back for a second to the video, the intro video, because we pointed out some things were my takeaways in that 1 minute. But the other one was broken femur 9 months prior, which I didn't know happened. I'm gonna have to go back tonight and fangirl a little more and watch one that you're afraid to watch. Apparently, I'll let you know how it goes.
It's a pretty awful injury. I don't want to watch.
Yeah, I don't blame you. But a broken femur, and then I'm not sure if you told me right before the show or on the show that your ankle in there wasn't just injured; it was actually broken. You said, and so. Like
why?
Why was number one, you wanted to be number one that bad, I'm guessing, or was it exterior pressure to be number one?
Well, first of all, I didn't know it was broken at the time. I actually didn't learn until, if you would have looked at it, any lay person, maybe this is why I'm not I'm a little mistrustful of doctors. We had a team doctor. It was the size of a grapefruit. It was purple. I had to tape it after every event and he was like, "It's fine. Get out there, girl. You're fine." I didn't learn until I was almost 39 years old. My ankle continued to deteriorate. I went for an MRI, and the doctor asked me when I shattered my ankle.
Wow.
And he asked if it was a car accident because he hadn't seen that bad of a break.
Holy cow. And so you felt pain, but were they injecting it with things to keep
I was
the pain?
injected. I had almost a cast, wrap on. It's amazing what you can do if you,
do you think this happens in other sports? I don't know. Maybe you do because this is your world. It's not mine. Is that happening at the NBA level? Is this happening in other sports?
That's a great question. I think gymnastics is really dangerous. The only other sport that has the same sort of degree of serious injuries is football. I think gymnastics has a very old school culture. They haven't really gotten with the times. In professional sports, I don't believe it is like this anymore because think about it. If you've paid millions of dollars for an athlete, you want to ensure some degree of longevity. You
want them to win. If they're not winning titles,
you want them to win. But if you've got Steph Curry at Warriors, my old, and he's got a relatively minor injury that could take him out forever, and you still have to pay that contract, you might just give him up for a season and hope you have good enough bench to fill in. They don't care. They didn't care. I fell out. Someone else was right there to take my place.
So why would you compete with a recently broken femur and an ankle that you didn't know was shattered, but was shattered?
I wanted it at the time. I did. I wanted it. And I thought that's what was necessary. That was the culture. Yeah. If you can't endure this, you're weak. Well, I was not going to be weak.
So then my question is everybody's been through horrible things in life. And it seems to me that you're the type of person that can take the horrible things and what have I learned from this? How am I now applying what you learned? It was horrible. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But what did you learn from it? What did you take away that has helped you in your adult life?
Well, I had to take some time after I left the sport. So I wanted it. But on that night I won, I thought to myself, I should walk away right now. I remember I didn't, but I thought to myself, I should go. This is going to get worse. And it did get worse. It got really bad.
What's going to get worse?
I had a serious eating disorder. I was very injured. Pain really messes with your mind over time. And I just unraveled. I fell apart. I did go to the next USA Championships and did pretty well. I think I was top 6. And after that, I just completely unraveled and became incredibly depressed. And, I thought about driving my car across the median. And I couldn't imagine a life without gymnastics, yet I couldn't do it anymore. I became incapable of doing things I had done. You remember Simone and the twisties back in, I had serious twisties. I couldn't do anything. My mind was telling me it was over. And that's hard to accept. I was 6 months out from the Olympic trials. But I walked away a month before Olympic trials because I knew I had to take care of myself. And I knew I couldn't do it anymore. And it took a very long time. I was ashamed. I felt like a failure. And I left for college, and I got to college and everybody was like, yeah, we're starting our lives. And I was like, I'm going to the retirement home. And I needed
You'd lived a full life almost by then.
yeah.
So how old were you when you went to college?
I was 19 because I waited a year in between.
Okay.
And I got there and I had no idea who I was without the sport. None. I had no idea that I had value without the sport. I didn't know. I was at Stanford, but I didn't go on an athletic scholarship. I didn't apply through
So
the
you were
athletic
smart if you
department,
went to
but I didn't
Stanford.
know that I was smart. I just sort of did the work in a rote fashion. I wasn't very curious. Intellectually curious. I did my homework to get it done so I could go to the gym. So I spent a while rebelling. I spent a while gaining weight because I ate a sandwich and gained like 30 pounds.
In your mind?
No, in reality, yeah, I did. I got a little chubby. I mean, my freshman 15 was like 20 to catch up to what was kind of a normal weight, and then 20 on top of that.
Wait, you didn't send any pictures of that in.
Yeah, they exist. It's fine. I don't mind. I had to figure out how to eat. I had to figure out that people would like me, even if I weighed more. I had to figure out what I was interested in and what I was curious about. I was mad that I had to figure stuff out and have a whole new life. At Stanford, it's sort of known for the academics and the athletics. And so I lived in a freshman dorm with people who would become professional tennis players, football players, baseball players, basketball players. All four of those things were in my freshman dorm. Those were my friends. And I was like, why do they get to do it? And I don't. I'm better than I'm higher ranking in my sport than they are in theirs. And yet they're going to make a career and I have to figure it out. I mean, I was mad. I was a very angry 19 to 25-year-old.
I would say that most of us were angry 12 to 15-year-olds. And so,
I did it later. It's a good point.
Yeah, you couldn't be angry. You were too,
Repressed.
focused and repressed. And you weren't allowed to be angry then. You weren't allowed to go through that. It just sounds to me like once you were allowed, you went through the natural order of things.
I think that's right. That's a good insight. I sort of did my individuating and kind of figuring out who I was. But I was angry that I was angry with my parents. I felt like they should have known. My dad's a pediatrician. He watched me unravel. He watched me not eat for years. I was angry that these coaches treated us that way. I was angry that I traveled around the world with the national team coach who was a known rapist. The young girl that is mentioned in the video that you showed, Do Yamashiro, is one of my best friends to this day. She's a lot of the reason I've done what I've done. She was raped by that national team coach. I wrote about it in my first book. People got very mad at me that it was hearsay. I mean, I asked her, of course, she's one of my best friends in the world. Can I say this? Can I say this? It was the most controversial part about the book, but it did lead to him getting banned from the sport.
There's so much this could be a 12-hour show for sure. I want to explore every nook and cranny of all of this, including when in your early bio, the Goodwill games.
Yeah. Cool, right?
Yeah. I mean, the national champion's a big deal, but being part of the Goodwill games.
Yeah.
I was reading about the history. I told you, dark rabbit hole last night.
Yeah,
all the way learning
that's
so much.
awesome.
And so it sounds like it was because of the Cold War and we couldn't compete in Russia.
Yes.
So the who was it? Ted Turner came up with the Goodwill games, and you get to go to the Goodwill
very
games.
first one. Yeah, it was this sort of like rogue style Olympic competition that was a response to the boycotts in 1980 and then 1984. And for those who aren't obsessed with Olympic history, the U.S. boycotted in 1980 because it was in Moscow, and then in retaliation, essentially, Russia retaliated in 1984.
How's it feel to be part of history?
I know. I didn't know at the time.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Keep going with the story.
So 1985, Ted Turner created this thing called the Goodwill Games because the mission was really to take politics out of sport, which I agree with, and to have teams from around the world come together, spirit of competition, compete. So the first one was in Moscow. I guess to prove a point. So I went to Moscow in 1985 before the wall came down. Cool, right?
I want to hear about that because we've not had this discussion. I just learned it last night.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot about your life and the work you're doing now that actually points back to maybe seeing the signs in America of communism and some things that are seeping in some of those ideologies. And so to know that you were in Moscow when the walls were still up during the Cold War, did you, I know you were young, but did you see or take away anything?
I was so young. I mean, a story that I tell that is the most memorable aspect is, so the Russians were the best in the world at the time. I mean, it was the Soviet Union. They weren't.
So was Romania part of Russia?
No, that was separate. Nadia was Romania. Yeah. But a lot of the little countries that are little countries now were part of the Soviet
USSR,
Union. Yeah. But they were the best in the world by far. I mean, no competition. The U.S. is now and has been for a long time, but there was no real competition. I mean, I guess Romania was the competition. But so we all wanted leotard. You would trade, the teams would trade stuff. So we all wanted the Russian leotards, track jackets, pins. We all had these pins. And I asked gymnasts that were a little older than me who had been there before for competitions, because it was a thing, or that had competed against them. There was like a USA Russia competition that happened every year. And I said, what can I bring? What are they going to want to trade? What's valuable that I can get the best Leos and the best pins? Levi's.
It was Levi's?
501s.
I absolutely just took a shot in the dark on that, but I had a feeling.
Yeah, it was Levi's 501s, not just Levi's, but 501s. So I made my mom take me to the Cherry Hill Mall, and I got, I don't know, maybe 10 pairs of little tiny 501s, and they were being sold on the black market in the Soviet Union at the time. And I traded them for pins and Leos, and that's what they wanted, because Levi's, and I guess Levi's at this point was cemented in my mind as just this like incredible brand. The brand represented sort of the best of American values. It represented freedom and progress, meaning this sort of optimism of we can do better, we can build things, we can, not progress as in, the progressive movement, but progress. I mean, that's why I love the brand. It was like this Bavarian merchant named Levi Strauss moves to America to build a better life for himself and his family. It's pretty cool. It's just sort of this ultimate go West young man story.
Such your first exposure to Levi's being an amazing, it's just your life story is so fascinating.
I mean, I'd already worn Levi's.
Well, who didn't?
Yeah, exactly.
Really?
I mean, I think I had my first pair when I was about 6. They weren't even denim. They were like baby blue cords.
You were fancy because I had navy blue polyester pants when I was 6 that my mom made me wear, and I hated them. Here's a fun
fact. I have a lot of Levi's lore, but in the 70s, which is when I got my first pair, corduroy outsold denim at Levi's.
Really?
Those cords were popular in the 70s. We tried to bring them back, but no one wants them now.
They're hot, first of all.
They are a little hot. And I think women feel like they add girth.
Yeah, they do. Every little quarter of a fraction of it matters.
But yeah, I mean, I had worn Levi's forever. And then during the 1984 Olympics, Levi's outfitted Team USA.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay, so anyway, you trip to Moscow, you're a world champion, You're now at Stanford and you're angry, finding yourself like a 14-year-old girl who's angry, but you're 19.
Yeah, I was like a goth chick, kind of.
Yeah, I would say that I was a little bit of that in high school. I was very much into that 90s grunge, early 90s.
I was like dyeing my hair every other week, and it was like black, or it was, bleach blonde Madonna and piercing my nose and getting tattoos.
You're trying to find yourself. You're trying to figure out who you are. I mean, I think that is
I am, clear. And I'm trying to sort of signal outwardly, which I think is relevant to the discussion today, that I'm different.
Mm-hmm. But you don't know how yet. You're just trying
I don't know how, but I'm just yelling it. I'm different. I'm not a conformist.
Amazing. And so did you declare your major? Because that's also fascinating to me, your major that you declared when you got there, or was that something you
No, you didn't. I don't know how it works now, but you don't do it till junior year at Stanford.
So your junior year, you decide you're going to be a political science and communication major.
Yeah, but I still had no idea what I was doing or what I
Okay.
wanted to do. Communications is sort of considered to be a joke major.
Hey, that was my degree.
Do people make fun of you? I get made. My husband makes fun of me for it all the time. But the reason I did it was I was very interested in film, and the film department was in comms at Stanford, and so I wanted to take all the film class. They didn't have that many. I mean, it's not like NYU or something. So if I wanted, I was, collecting up all these film classes.
But the political science portion is
that
where
was like, I declared a second major at the end of my junior year because I looked at my transcript and I was like 95% done because that was what interested me. US politics. Yeah.
Why? Like, what interested you about it? Where were you on the spectrum of like political beliefs? Were you a registered anything at this point?
Well, I come from my whole family they are still Democrats. As much as I knew anything about anything, I was a Democrat. I probably was I don't remember. I mean, I voted as soon as I could vote. I'm most certain I voted Democrat. The election I remember voting in was Bill Clinton for
I was just going to say,
president, but that was after college.
You weren't old enough to vote for Mondale, right? In Reagan in 1980, you weren't 18 yet, so
no,
would have come after.
The one I remember
was
caring
Clinton.
About the outcome was Clinton, and I was graduated at that point.
I was in college and I voted for Bush, so
yeah. So I mean, I was a Democrat. Yeah. We are Jewish. Not that should matter, but a lot of Jews are Democrats. Mm-hmm. I just sort of had adopted the label that, and the sort of value system. But I think I stuck with it and became more educated. It wasn't just a knee-jerk thing at a certain point. I mean, I'm not a Democrat anymore. I'm an independent. I think I'm going to stay there despite a lot of people trying to convince me I need to register as a Republican. I can explain why later. But I don't know. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer.
So that political science, maybe to go to law school. That's where that was going.
Yeah.
It wasn't about being like running for office.
No,
or
never.
Political. Okay.
Never wanted that. But I thought a lawyer, which was sort of at the time what you did if you didn't know what you wanted to do. The education seemed interesting to me. It was really just, I found it intellectually interesting. And I was really just figuring out what was interesting to me. Mm-hmm. I remember loving my First Amendment class and my constitutional law class. It was just what interested me. I didn't really, it was a liberal arts school. It's not sort of like a school where you're in training for a job. And it was interesting to me. That was it. Okay. I found it really interesting.
What's interesting is now you are so involved in things that are happening in politics. And so it's come full circle.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't for a long time because I am still in business and worked in the business world for a long time, but I do everything upside down and backwards, Tina. I mean, I'm a long-time corporate executive with no MBA, which makes me
interesting. So that's where we were going to go next. Is you end up at I'm not. Can we say the name of the company? You end up at Levi's, which is ironic since you brought those 10 pair of Levi's to Moscow behind the
good fortune
the wall, iron curtain behind the iron curtain. And you end up at Levi's, and you work your way up to CMO, right?
And then president.
Really?
Yeah.
I just have CMO.
2 years as president after that.
And so again, excelling at extreme levels, I'll say. But not everybody becomes. Is that what it is? Hard worker? Like what drives you?
I love working. I do.
So do I.
That's what's fun to me. I like working really hard. I like figuring stuff out. I like being good at stuff, but I don't need to be good at it right away. I'll work to master something. When I first started in business, it was around 1994. I think I got my first job at an advertising agency. Levi's was one of the clients, but I did not work on Levi's. I worked on Taco Bell, which was not good for the weight gain situation.
Their Mexican pizzas, though, are still pretty good.
The beef and cheese, the bean and cheese burrito. That's salty. It's not meat. I don't know what it is, but it's delicious. I still like Taco Bell. My kids think it's disgusting that I do. And I didn't want that job. I thought I was going to do something, either go to law school or do something more creative. I was in film. but I didn't have the confidence to pursue creative. Like I didn't have the confidence to, write a book or make a movie. And I was only 24, 25. So who does? Well, some people do.
Nowadays, it seems like.
Yeah. But I needed a job. I never wanted to ask my parents for any help. And I knew someone who knew someone at this agency, and I got a job. And I was so excited because I'd been doing like temp work, answering phones and stuff. And I was so excited when I got this job. And it was for $16,000 a year. And I thought that was so amazing. And I got my first check and I was like, what am I lived in San Francisco.
You can't
I mean, I had like 4 roommates, but I didn't want it. I felt like it was conventional. I was still sort of semi-goth and, feeling like a rebel. And here I was taking this very conventional job, but I found I really liked it. It was a very young environment, youthful. It was fun and I was good at it. And I was willing to put the time and the hours in and get better at it. And in marketing, at least what I found is it's sort of this, the right and left brain, because there's the analytics, there's the data. We didn't have as much as we do now,
right.
But, you're managing budgets, you're doing, there's that side, and then there's the creative side. And I found the part I was really good at was understanding how to intersect with culture to message something in a very relevant way. And I was able to identify that that's what I was good at. And so I kept going, but I didn't want to do, I was probably in for a decade before I was like, I guess this is my career and I guess I'm going to just go all in and like it. But I was lucky enough, I left the agency because $16,000 a year was tough. And I went to the Gap, which is also in San Francisco. And I worked at Banana Republic for 3 years. And then I got a call to come work at Levi's. They're only a mile apart, the Gap and Levi's. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And I took a step down because I loved the brand and I wanted to work there.
It's amazing. And then you work your way up to president.
Yeah.
And you were there for a long
23 years, which is unheard of in the world today. No one does that.
No, the loyalty to your organization or your business just isn't the same. People job hop all the time.
Yeah.
So deep roots there.
Yep.
You really built your life there.
Yeah. I got married there. I had 2 children there. Got divorced there. I got married again and had 2 more children. I mean, like, it was my life, funerals, weddings, baby showers, knew everyone in the place. Loved it.
What did you take from your experiences in gymnastics to your job at Levi's
Good question.
to get you to that level?
It's a good question. One of the main things is the kind of coach I don't want to be.
Yeah. I'm sure you had a number of direct employees at Levi's.
Well, yeah, the most I think was 16 direct reports, but I mean, I had a team of 1,000 by the end in 110 countries.
So you set the tone and the culture really for the organization. And so your experience, that's a huge point to know what you don't want to be, how you don't want to lead.
No, I am going to be fair and direct and hopefully inspirational. Set a goal and have everybody move towards it. If someone's not delivering, I'll have an open, honest, and fair and respectful conversation. It's not that I haven't fired people. It's not that I haven't laid people off. I've done all the things. But you always treat people with respect and like human beings. And you don't get people to do things and work hard by berating them. That's never going to work long term. So you just treat people the way you'd want to be treated. It
sounds so simple, but it's not even often in the corporate world. Honestly, I've worked for some companies that
it can be terrible. I'll be honest. I don't know what it's like now. I hated working at the Gap because I found it to be very mean in terms of the culture, but Levi's wasn't at all. And I had the opportunity to influence the culture as I moved up. And, when I started there, Levi's was a very good old boys network. It was a very sales driven, it was different for fashion because a lot of fashion companies even back then had female executives, but Levi's did not. So there weren't, female mentors. There weren't really women to look up to. But I was able to kind of become that over time and create a culture. I don't know that I want to use this word, but was inclusive and sort of talent focused. No
You
matter who
changed
you
the
were.
culture for sure.
I
would
feel
say.
like I did. I feel like I certainly contributed to that. I was there a long time. But the other thing I'm proud of is I changed the trajectory of the brand. The brand was failing. It's not a secret. There have been Harvard Business Review articles written about the fact that in 2011, it almost went bankrupt. And in 2019, we had a very successful public offering. And I was the CMO and certainly credited, not entirely, but in part with turning the corner and bringing the brand back.
What like one or two things did you do or implement to make that change?
Well, my mantra was we had to put the brand at the center of culture again. Be part of the conversation, be part of the cultural conversation. So the thing I said before about how you take an idea and intersect with the culture, brands do that, which is, we'll get to it, but why I wanted to start the brand I have now. Brands do it. Obviously, cultural things do it. Film, books. No one reads books anymore except me, apparently. Music. These things are all sort of influencing culture, but brands have been influencing culture for years. And we need to use all the tools at our disposal to do that. It's not just about advocacy. It's not just about legislation. Culture is downstream from politics. And we've been losing the cultural battle, and we need to wrest it back with the full force.
So what did you do at Levi's, or what did the team do at Levi's to make Levi a cultural icon again, or to bring it back to what it was?
We had to take steps. Like, you couldn't pivot overnight. The brand had gone from being this symbol of freedom and rebellion and rugged individualism to being like dorky dad jeans.
Oh, painful.
Not exactly like, inspiring for young people. And it was the product. There were very practical things that we had done wrong around distribution. We didn't open stores when stores became, but we just lost all that mojo from a marketing and brand perspective. And then as a response, we sort of tried too hard to be like edgy and cool. And you can't go from like
dad jeans to
And so I sort of took what the heart and soul of the brand was, which is really about
America
and free expression.
Yeah.
Be the best version of yourself. Say what you think, individualism, and modernize and interpret that for today. What does that look like today? Don't just kind of harken back to the good old days. So it's in keeping with the brand's heart and soul, but expressed in a modern way. I also leaned really heavy into music. Artists, we did a ton of partnerships with artists. We did customization of product at music festivals around the world. We were present on all the big music shows. And I always say, we didn't choose music, music chose us, because every artist that's anything has worn Levi's on stage. Every artist with an original voice has worn Levi's on stage. If you go to Coachella, people are wearing nothing or they're wearing Levi's, basically. It's just Woodstock, nothing or Levi's.
Nothing.
I mean, seriously, look at the pictures from Woodstock. People are either fully naked or they're wearing Levi's jeans or cutoffs. There's just this deep tie, cultural connection between the brand and music. Elvis wore Levi's, Madonna wore Levi's, Beyonce, even before this campaign, wore Levi's, Blondie wore Levi's. I mean, the Ramones, like every country artist, punk art, everybody wore Levi's. So I was like, why are we not
capitalizing on that?
Yes, and
that was low-hanging fruit.
Telling the stories of these artists. So we did that. And we had partnership with so many musicians. I mean, Alicia Keys was a really big one. It was the first big celebrity deal I did. We were relaunching our women's product, and we were trying to think of an artist with sort of broad cultural appeal, older, younger, original voice. I mean, put her politics aside, beautiful voice, original voice, writes all her own music. Yeah. She's not a faker. And I'd been writing with her manager. I wrote about this story in my book, and I suddenly get this email back that says, can you come meet with Alicia tomorrow? It's like noon, and she wants me there at 9 a.m. at her house in the morning in New Jersey.
And you say yes.
Yeah, I said yes. And I was still nursing at the time. I think I'd had my second I don't know. I have too many kids.
Hold on, pause. How many
Yeah,
kids do you
I
have?
have
Because
4.
we are Moms for Liberty. And so we didn't even mention that in all of this, you are a mom. You have 4
I have
children.
4. I have 2 that are grown in their 20s. And then I did get divorced, and then I got remarried, and I have 2 more that are much younger.
Big gap. And
I have
so
big
you're
gap.
nursing one of these older babies and
One of the younger babies.
And
Yeah,
you
because
go,
this is around 2014. So it must
Okay.
be my son, Oscar, who is now 10.
okay.
And I called my husband and I said, Alicia Keys wants to meet with me. And I was relatively new in the CMO role. I think I was a year in, but I was bullish and I wanted to get her. She was the one. Global, international star. I needed to be relevant in 110 countries. You know, like it's a tough math equation. And I said, I think I need to leave from the office and get on the red eye and go to New Jersey. And he was like, go. I was like, there's milk in the freezer.
Oh, good. You had milk stored.
Yeah. And I got on the plane and I go to her house. You know, there's very cryptic instructions. They send a car to my hotel to get to her house, and you have to go through all the security to get in and sign non-disclosures. And you're in this waiting room, and there's crazy art everywhere. Her husband's one of the biggest art collectors in the world. There's like Basquiat's in the bathroom. I mean, it was the nutty. I was like, what? And then they come in and they escort me to this room. And she comes in, and we had a baby about the same age, and we were both nursing still at the time. So we just bonded instantly over being new moms. And I closed the deal right then.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Again, excelling at exceptional levels.
But you know what the lesson I learned in that was? Because I went in and I was just myself. And she said, I want this deal because I liked Jen. And for many years in corporate, I tried to hide who I was, whether it was my sort of rebellious nature or in the early days that I was a mom. I didn't hide it. You know, I mean, people knew I was a mom, but I didn't have pictures of my kids everywhere. It was a different time, you know, and I didn't want anyone to think that that was my real priority. Like if I was up for a promotion, I mean, it was a real thing that women with kids didn't necessarily get prioritized for promotions, even if they were the better candidate. So I didn't want anyone to think she's not that committed. But I learned in that moment, I really learned it when I wrote my book in 2008, but then I relearned it with Alicia Keys. If you bring you in full force, that's the magic.
Genuine.
That's the
genuine
magic.
person.
That's when you're going to achieve the most. That's when you're going to have the most impact. And if bringing you in full force to a situation does not work, then you need to find a different place to do it.
That is a great piece of advice. A life lesson for sure.
Yeah. It's a hard one to learn.
Well, it's hard for people to change if this is what you've thought you always wanted or you're good at or where you think you belong. It's really hard to wake up and realize that maybe that's not where you're supposed to be at the moment.
Yeah, it is. And it's also, I mean, I think it's gone a little too far, this whole idea, or at least it's been kind of, you know, the whole bring your authentic self to work, the HR rule. It's like, no, you don't have to say what you think every minute of every day at work. Like focus on the work. But I tried really hard in leadership to talk about my kids and to sometimes, you know, say if I was having a hard day, or like to create a situation and a culture where people could feel comfortable and, you know, not live divided lives necessarily, you know, because I think if you're whole, which doesn't mean you get to work at home all day in your pajamas, because I don't support that. I just think you're more energetic. You're better. You're just better.
Agree.
I mean, don't you feel as the leader of this organization, which is so completely aligned with what you believe, like you're better than you would be in another job, probably?
I'm me.
Right.
I get to be me and live out what I believe and my values and be surrounded by people that have the same values, which strengthens. It just strengthens you to be with your people, all moving in the same direction with the same goals. It's a remarkable feeling, and it's wonderful because I've worked in cubicles in corporations, being a cog in a wheel, and I'm sorry, there's nothing more soul crushing, even, making actually more than I make now by far.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit soul crushing. You're doing the work and you're being productive. And I always took pride in whatever work I was doing, and I needed to do it to pay for my, raise my
Which
family.
matters. Yeah.
And it matters and it's important, but it definitely doesn't bring you deep gratification and joy in the work that you're doing each day.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I agree with you. I did find great. I mean, the first 10 years at Levi's, I was doing well and I was moving up. I wasn't very good at advocating for myself. I learned that lesson sometime around 2006. Like, I sort of thought, if I just put my head down and do the work, I'll get promoted. And I was the marketing director in the US at the time, and my boss was retiring. And I was like, okay, when do I start? And she was like, yeah, you're not getting this. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm next in line. It just hadn't crossed my mind that other people were in there.
You had to be playing the political maneuvering game. And I struggle with that now in this organization. I'm like, if Moms for Liberty is producing and doing the work, we'll get recognized. We'll get the credit. We'll get a seat at the table here and there.
Nope.
And it turns out you've got to be like positioning yourself and maneuvering around and doing all those political moves.
I like to think of it not as political maneuvering, as part of the actual job. If you're going to have a seat to be influential, you have to influence behind the scenes as well. Somebody else is doing it if you're not.
Bingo. I have a few life lessons I need to learn. I'm going to take from you.
It's just part of the job. I mean, you would never, I wouldn't go into an executive leadership or a board meeting without having talked to every board member and already gotten them to sign off. You don't want like what's going to happen here? If I was presenting something important to the board, I did all of that one-on-one discussion beforehand. Is that politics, or is that just me doing my job?
A little bit of both. It's not politics like Republican Democrat politics. It's office politics. I would say you're getting people on your side, supporting your issue of what you're trying to advance. Yeah. Seems like office politics. Maybe.
But it's also doing the job, because I can have more in-depth, robust conversations one-on-one beforehand. I can answer their questions. I mean, I see what you're saying. I just sort of think of it as the job.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not good at it. I need to learn to get better at it.
You have to do it.
Okay.
You have to build the relationship.
Your first book. So you've got 2 books.
Yeah.
But your first book, so you're angry. You go to Levi's. Levi's doesn't care that you wrote this book, because it sounds like it was during that time period.
It was. So listen, I kept it a secret.
Okay, hold on. You wrote a book. It was called
Chalked Up,
and it is about
gymnastics and the abusive training culture. First book about that.
I was just going to say, is there any other books at that day about it?
0.
So you've got I'm guessing you're still deep down like angry. What am I going to do with this?
I wasn't angry. I was sad. And I was successful. I was already a vice president. I had 2 children. On the surface, I was great. And I was great, but I
wrote this book in secret?
Yes.
I would
get up at 5 a.m. I'd write. I also didn't know how to write a book, but I was like, I want to tell the story. It was almost like an exercise to exorcise the anxiety, the depression, and the low self-esteem that I couldn't quite figure out why I still suffered from after being quite successful.
So it's getting it all out, getting your feelings out, which therapists tell you to do all the time.
That's right.
Write it down.
Right.
So
and I wasn't a huge fan of therapy, so I decided to do it myself.
Okay. I got that.
And I didn't think it would get published. So why would I tell anybody if I don't know, I'm a novice writer. I don't think it'll get published, but I did think I could do this. Why do I need to go to some school for writing? Like, I think I could do this. And I sent it, my draft, which just spilled out of me in 3 months. I was very disciplined. This is what I learned in sports too. And I knew, I did the calculation. If I wrote 1,000 words a day for X number of days, 60 days, 2 months, I would have a book. It took a little longer because you write 1,000 and then you edit down about half of them the next day and then to fill those in. But and I got to the point where I could do 2,000 a day, and I would write, because you get better as you go.
Because you're an overachiever.
Yeah. But I would write in the morning and then after my kids went to bed. So I would get up super early before work, and then I would write very late at night. And I sent it to a friend a former friend who was a writer and had published books. And she was like, this is a book.
And so what did Levi's think? So we can.
Well, I didn't even tell them even after I got a publisher. So first of all, I wrote it in 2006. They held on to it, the publisher, until right before the Olympics, because that was going to be the most,
Yeah.
buzzworthy. I still didn't tell anyone at Levi's. I was just like, because books come
But you're
out.
an executive at this point. Like that could impact
I
Levi's
know.
and your position. I would think that was somewhere in your contract. Like, well, probably not
I-
like you can't write a book, but
Well, I never had a contract. Isn't that crazy? Because I
Really?
grew up there, and it's like they forget when you come in at a low level. I never had a contract.
I'd probably understand that, because those of us that have been around here when we've gone through audits are like, where's, the first person that was hired's contract? And I'm like, they're my neighbor. And I asked them to come to the office and help. There was no contract.
If you come in at a high level, there's a contract. If you grow up, not always. So I didn't have one, but it sort of took off. It was published by HarperCollins, and I was on all the morning shows. So I was on Good Morning America, and
so Levi's now knows.
Yeah. They now know. And the whole reason I didn't want to tell them was the same reason I didn't have pictures of my kids on my desk. Like, I didn't want them to think if I was up for a promotion, well, Jen really wants to be a writer. I mean, I was committed to this job, but it had the exact opposite impact. It was, I garnered tons of respect. She's brave, she's courageous. This was a time when, to the broad world, the things I said were well received. To my community, gymnastics, it was a brutal time. They just dragged me.
You say your community. At this point, are you still heavily connected to the gymnastics community?
No, because I actively walked away. But I had teammates I stayed in touch with. I had USA teammates I stayed in touch with. And even if I didn't, these people understood me and what my childhood was like no one else possibly could. So they still mattered to me.
So were people in that community reaching out like, thank you so much for being brave and speaking up, and we're so proud of you?
No, they were saying she's a liar and a grifter. Yeah. She's a liar and a grifter. USA Gymnastics, USOPC. I mean, there was just like a
individuals that you knew, and they knew that
all
you knew,
coming after me.
Were you surprised by that?
I didn't know what to expect, Tina. This is 2008, so very early days of social media. I didn't really understand how brutal it could be. It was very upsetting. I mean, one woman who is now a friend, who is in fact the only person that's ever apologized to me, just chased me around the internet. She's a lawyer. She said she was going to sue me, that I was a liar. I was criticizing, the gym that we had both trained at. I mean, I was kind of scratching my head, because I'm like, they know this is true. We've all talked about it. Like, I know it was like an open secret,
but they would have to face that it happened to them and admit it. And
that's right.
And they've been covering it up and hiding it for so long.
That's right. Bingo. And this one woman, threatening to sue me, was calling in on I was on a national NPR radio show. She called in and on national radio was threatening to sue me. And she called me 3 years later, and she said, "I'm sorry, you were right about everything. I wasn't ready."
So what did that experience teach you? Like, all the people that you knew that went through it, denying it, calling you horrible names. What'd you learn from that?
The truth out's always in the end.
Standing for truth. It's a Moms for Liberty. One of our values, number one, actually, is we stand for truth. It's
the truth
vital.
Always out. Please don't ever say my truth. I'm not talking to you.
No, there's no such thing as my truth.
There is no such thing. It is the truth that the sport was abusive, that the national team coach was a pedophile. It's not my truth. It is the truth that Larry Nassar abused 500, at least, young girls. That is the truth. And that's what I learned, is the truth out's in the end. People have all sorts of reasons for not wanting to see truth. But really, that call meant a lot to me from her, and she's still a close friend. But it really wasn't until 2018 that kind of full redemption happened, which is when Larry Nassar went to prison for life. And suddenly everyone was like, "Oh, we stood with Jen all along. She was the first to talk about these things."
What's happening? That's happening now with COVID stuff. And we'll get to that.
I know.
Right? So,
but that's okay. I mean,
what do you mean it's okay? Like they
it's not
abuse
really,
you. They tell you you're lying, that you're a grifter. You're trying to make money. Like,
okay, it's not totally okay.
Not okay.
No, but I think we have to welcome people to
I agree
the
with that.
fight. And I think, in 2018, 2020, which is when Athlete A came out,
Hold on.
was-
What's Athlete A?
it's a documentary film that I made about, I produced it.
Emmy award-winning documentary and
You can
film.
watch it on Netflix. It's about Larry Nassar, the team doctor for Team USA Gymnastics. For those who don't know, he abused 500 young athletes over 30 years. USA Gymnastics covered up for him. There's evidence that the USOPC covered up for him. But USAG had destroyed evidence of his crimes, et cetera, et cetera. The FBI, the Department of Justice, I think, has paid out $100 million to the victims because they, once the case was reported by Olympians, did nothing for 16 months. I mean, it's like the corruption ran deep here. So that's what Athlete A is about, Nassar, but it's also about connecting Nassar to the broader culture of abuse, because Nassar could not have existed if the sport wasn't rotten to the core. But I was sort of riding high. Maybe I wasn't overconfident. I'm never overconfident, but after a decade of saying this stuff and not backing down, it was finally recognized as true. And I was recognized as somebody who was brave enough to say it early.
Why? What in you? There's thousands of gymnasts and affiliates that know this culture and what's going on, and some that succeeded, some that didn't succeed. You think they would have blew the whistle a long time ago. Yeah, it's not. I think it would be easier, but you were by all measures extremely successful. What in you made you want to stand for truth? Where does that come from in anyone, in any issue?
I mean, I guess it's probably different for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, I think there's a couple things. One, I want to be the adult that stands up for children because I wish somebody had stood up for me. There were adults who knew better and who looked the other way. And that's our responsibility as adults, is to endure whatever slings and arrows are necessary to protect children, not just our own, but all children. I was suffering, which sometimes prompts, I also started not knowing what it would become. So my naivete sometimes gets me in trouble. I was suffering. And so I started down this path. And then once I start and once I'm out there and people say, you can't say this, then I'm angry. And then I'm like, yeah. I have some sort of allergic reaction to being told I can't say a thing.
I'm
going to
say rebellious spirit.
Okay,
that's what I'm sensing, is a very rebellious. I have the same thing. And so it's almost a rebellious spirit, but it's not in a bad way. It's
a rebel with a cause.
Yeah. With a cause. I like that. A rebellious, a positive rebellious spirit that isn't going to allow others to put you in a place where you have to go against what you believe and what you value and what you understand.
Well, I think there's a willingness, and I think this is not true for most people, but probably is true for most of your members. I'm willing to stand apart from the crowd to do the right thing. And I'm willing to accept that comes with.
I think gymnastics training did that.
Probably.
The individual, I think maybe you said it's like an individual harsh, you're alone. You think that actually gave you what you needed to stand up against the abuse in the same system. It created you.
Maybe, but look at all the other people who didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of factors, I think. And I just think, I know we'll get to COVID, but during COVID, I remember I kept thinking to myself, there's something uniquely horrible. Well, there was something uniquely horrible at the time, but about people going along with this. There's something uniquely horrible right now. Why are people going along with this egregious violation of our civil liberties, this inflicting of harm upon our young people? And then I realized there's nothing special about that time. That is how it is across eras and geographies. Most people would rather stand with the crowd than stand apart and do the right thing. And most people don't want to, and they'll just wait it out. Even if they see, they'll just wait it out. And I'm not that person.
No, so you weren't that person with the gymnastics. So Levi's was okay with the book. They were proud of you. They rallied around you. Athlete A, which again, Emmy.
We won the Emmy in 2020. Yeah, they were fine. At that point, I was very senior, and they were proud you know,
that you were an individual, you were standing for freedom, all the things Levi stands for, really, right? Independence,
self-expression,
Christian, all
authentic
the things.
self-expression. That was our sort of mission statement. So,
Authentic self-expression. Okay.
yeah.
So all good. We're leading
Yeah.
into 2020. Everything's going great.
Yeah.
You're conquering some of your demons through a book and through exposure. And it started you said the gymnastics culture is still similar. It's still not great, but there was a lot of changes in those years
I
with the
think they're
exposure.
trying.
Oh, A for effort. No.
I think
C for effort.
It's hard. This culture has been around in the sport for 50 years. There's a lot of the same coaches still coaching. They're not going to wake up overnight and go, oh, I have to do everything different now than I did. You know, when I wrote the book, USA Gymnastics head at the time was saying to me, it's different now. That was the 80s. And I was like, I don't think it's different. My coaches are still coaching. They didn't wake up and go, it's the year 2000. I'm going to change my ways. They don't know another way. They don't see it as abusive, the things that I described. So we need a new generation of coaches who see, and they're coming. I think they're coming. The other problem is, U.S. Center for Safe Sport is incredibly ineffective. So that was established in 2018 when the Safe Sport Act passed, and they're 4 years behind on complaints of abuse. It takes, when they begin an investigation, it takes almost 4 years to resolve it. So my main coach was just banned from the sport. He's retired in the time that they started the investigation till he retired. And everything in the report I wrote about 20 years ago.
Good grief.
So Center for Safe Sport is not working.
Yeah, I would think justice should always be swift and timely. This sounds like justice is taking way too long.
Yeah. And they're abusing, coaches are abusing during that long drawn out process.
So let's get back. You in 2020, it's okay. 2020 Levi's, they're so supportive of your freedom of speech and all the things.
Yeah.
And then COVID happens and you've got 4 kids, 2 in school at this point.
I had 4, 1 in college, 1 in high school, 1 in elementary school, and 1 in preschool.
Oh my gosh. And a corporate executive and producing an Emmy documentary. So also very impressive. What happens?
Yeah, I was.
Hold on. You're a Democrat.
I'm a Democrat.
I think that's
living in San Francisco.
You're a Democrat living in San Francisco. It's part of like the story. It's absolutely part of the story.
Yeah. A very committed Democrat. I did get more political. I mean, I didn't work in politics, but I was very engaged, and I always voted. I went to marches, did all sorts of stuff. And then the minute COVID started, so even before lockdowns, my husband and I were like, yeah, no, they're going to lock us down. This is not good. We weren't scared from the outset. The data, everybody is fond of saying now we didn't know. We did know from the very beginning.
Absolutely knew. I mean, we sat in 12-hour school board meetings where we picked apart every piece of data locally from every hospital, statewide data, federal data.
And all you need to know is Italy. Remember, after China, there was Italy.
Yeah.
The median age of death was 82.
There was no child hospitalized in our entire county. And this was like 9 months in. Still no children hospitalized.
There's no child in San Francisco to this day that has died of COVID.
And yet you get locked down. Your schools get closed.
Our schools get closed. My kids go to public school. I think I might be the only executive in all of California that sent her kids to public school, unless you lived in Marin County. Then that was the other thing, because they all went to like $70,000 a year private schools.
So why? I mean,
why did they?
Yeah, why? Was it a conscious decision or just easy decision, or you were like, I'm determined my kids are going?
Why did I send my kids to public school? I thought you were asking why did they send theirs to?
Oh, I know. I know why they send theirs to private school. Why did you send yours to public school?
It was a conscious decision. I felt like I still send my kids to public school I live in Denver now. It was a conscious decision to live in San Francisco, not to move to, the burbs and, Marin or South Bay or whatever. I wanted to be part of that city and the fabric of that city. And I wanted people talk about the diversity in cities. Well, there is diversity in cities, all kinds of diversity, except thought in San Francisco. But there is, we were friends with families that were immigrants from all around the world. Like, if you want to be part of the fabric of that city and that culture, but you send your kids to, a private school, $70,000 a year private school where they're sort of like raised like veal and sorry, you can't say you want to be part of the city's culture and not be part of the city's culture. And my kids had done very well going to San Francisco public schools. We're involved parents, both my first husband and my second husband. My oldest went to UC Berkeley, which is a great school. They had done really well in school. They were exposed to the arts. There were great arts programs in the school. So I was very happy with it, and we were involved, and it was not super crazy. I mean, my son started school in 2005. So maybe 2006, sorry. You didn't see the same kind of craziness.
Yeah, I have a 24-year-old. So is that
they're the
about
same age.
Yeah. And his school experience. Well, I started seeing some concerning things in middle school with history and civics, but
yeah,
a lot of the crazy stuff that's happening now it wasn't in his experience at all.
And then, my two older kids went to this amazing public high school for the performing and visual arts, and so like the FAME school, but with visual arts. That was not available in any of the private schools, that kind of arts education.
So you enjoyed having your kids in public school. Good experience overall.
I did. I loved it.
But then they lock schools down.
And I was like, what? This is not okay. I mean, I was opposed to all of it. My husband and I both. The lockdowns. But I focused my rage and my outspokenness on schools because I thought that was a calculated choice. I thought that we could all come together and agree that we should protect children. I thought that would be sort of like the gateway drug to discussing all of the lockdowns and stuff. I was wrong. And then when private schools opened in the fall of 2020, and everyone I knew who worked in corporate America sent their kids back to school and still yelled at everybody else that they couldn't have it for the public school kids, who are the most vulnerable children. 60% of San Francisco's public school children are on free or reduced lunch. They're living, just above, at, or below the poverty line.
So if your kids would have been, and I hadn't thought about this before, but if your kids would have been in private school,
they would have gone back.
They would have gone back, but you may not have been an outspoken advocate, because if you're not,
I would have been.
Maybe. I mean, who knows? We can Monday morning quarterback.
Yeah. You never know.
It may not have hit you so personally so quickly. Like
I think that's fair.
You could have sent them. Oh, they're going back to school, but man, you're like, wait, and your kids' friends, like that you're living that life because they're in public school. And you're thinking about all their friends that are in the classrooms.
No, you're right.
And
although
not going back.
Some of the outspoken moms in San Francisco did have their kids in private school, and they were outraged by the fact that their kids could access school, but other kids
good for them.
Not.
So you would have been one of them.
So I mean, to your point, you never know, but I don't think it takes a genius to think about what these kids were going through. I'm not especially smart. I'm not especially insightful, but when you live in a city, you also live side by side with people that are different from you, and 2 blocks down from where I lived in San Francisco was subsidized housing. I knew what those children.
What are they going to do all day?
What are they going to do? We played at the same playground. Our kids played at the same playgrounds, which were also closed for 10 months. It didn't take that much. It didn't take that much insight to know that those kids were home alone because their parents were working hourly wage jobs. Young, very young children were home alone. That alone. That, these children, many of them got their lunches at school. Mm-hmm. They had an adult that was checking in to make sure they were okay, mentally, physically, emotionally, like all of that disappeared.
Taken away. Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, those things were all obvious from the beginning. Not to mention, we treated from the beginning kids like they were toxic waste. Children's lives were restricted long after adults resumed their lives.
I hate to use the word triggered, but it seems, just hearing
I was triggered.
You're hearing your whole story.
I'm still triggered.
But we're hearing your whole story about gymnastics and how you and the girls were treated and names being called and the abuse. And so it seems like closing schools, locking these vulnerable kids in their homes, like it seems like it would be exceptionally triggering for you.
Yeah, It was.
Yeah, it translates. I mean, don't you see the similarities,
yes.
or is it just me?
No, you're right. I'm thinking I was exceptionally triggered that we would do this to children. It just upset the natural order. We're supposed to protect children. Adults are supposed to protect children, and yet we use children as human shields. It's kind of that simple. But beyond the children, I was incredibly alarmed by the egregious violation of our civil liberties. You couldn't run a business, you couldn't go to church, you couldn't go to temple, you couldn't visit loved ones in the hospital, you couldn't have a funeral. I had a friend that died in the summer of 2020, not from COVID. We were told we could not have a funeral on the beach for 15 people. Like, I don't care how dangerous COVID is. You can't, or anything is. Honestly, you can never do that. And you can never lock people down, because that danger level will be manufactured, I believe. If there's a sort of line set that's like, well, when it's this dangerous, we can do it, that will be manufactured, because even the level of danger, this will get me in trouble, of COVID was manufactured. Let us all have our own risk tolerance, and let us do what we believe is right for us. So it was also that sort of violation of civil liberties. It was the censorship, it was the drumbeat, and it was the left's response, which had been,
which
as
you were part
Democrat,
of.
and
Yeah.
I was appalled, and I was.
Did you have to search for your identity again?
Not really. I was
Okay.
like, this is who I am. I'm saying the true thing. I believe in
Science.
I believe in science. I
Mm.
believe in the public school system. I believe all children deserve an education. I believe in freedom of speech. I believe in the freedom to congregate. I believe in supporting the little guy, not the big greedy corporation. So I actually don't think my values changed at all. I think I'm the one that was consistent. I think they're the ones that weren't, because continuing to advocate for closures, for mass vaccination, which is really support of big pharma, like that's not the
People's Party, the blue collar People's Party. The Democrats historically were the blue dog Democrats. So
I'm like, who are these people? And then the vehemence with which they will take you down.
Well, let's go there for a second. So what I want to tie this into is not to beat up COVID so much, because we've had a lot of those conversations, but your response in your job, because they were so supportive of you speaking out against abuse. But what happened this time?
Well, COVID was different, and like I said, I was sort of riding high, feeling like, oh, if you speak the truth will out in the end. But COVID was just a whole different stage. The entire world went mad. And here I was, this lady in San Francisco saying, what are we doing? We can't close the schools. We can't close the churches. We can't stop AA meetings. People need this stuff. And, I was billed instantly as a racist and a eugenicist, and racist because, the public schools are majority Black and brown students, including my two oldest children. And I clearly wanted the Black and brown students to die. That was the argument, the level of absurdity. And so it wasn't just work. It was the entire city that I would walk down the street, Tina, and people would chase me and scream at me like they recognized me from X. And a woman came up to me, got in my face, and said, no one will care when your children die. What's really interesting, to tie back to the Russia thing? At one point I was out for a run in San Francisco once we were allowed outside, and this guy with a very heavy Russian accent started chasing me down the street, and I was like, oh no, not another one. And he recognized me, and he said, thank you for you and your husband for what you've done. I come from the Soviet Union, and this is so important. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it's truth coming forward again, is what it is. So it's your story is fascinating, and it's, even as we're discussing it here, I'm just like seeing the threads and how it's all come together is quite remarkable.
But the long and short, to answer your question, is it didn't go great for me. But like I said, when you tell me I can't say something is when I'm going to say it more and say it louder. And so, it wasn't just Levi's. It was the entire city. It was the entire state. It was all of corporate America just kind of directed ire at me. I think I was the only executive saying, this should not be what we're doing.
How did that feel in comparison to when you when you wrote your first book about the abuse in gymnastics and the hate that came after that?
It was way worse. It was way worse. Because when I wrote the book about gymnastics, the bigger wide world supported me. Like, people would say things like, yeah, I guess I was watching the sport and it did seem a little weird,
Yeah.
What was really hurtful was sort of the community I grew up in was really cruel. So that was really hard.
But this time everyone was against you.
Everyone.
Well, not everyone. You
Not
found
everyone.
some few random friends
You're
out
right.
there.
And I met Tiffany even before you guys launched. And over time, and I'm sure you found this too, by the fall of 2020, I was part of a sort of informal network of moms that were very outspoken. And that brought me a lot of strength to find that community. But it was a really hard time. I mean, probably the most difficult time in my life. People who I considered friends for many, many years were calling me names that you can't even, imagine. And it's like, how can we not just like agree to disagree or have a conversation about this? Like, who I am, what's in my heart, I'm not an idiot, I think about things long and hard before I take a stance. Like, what you're saying is not true, but people were completely brainwashed during that time. And it got really bad. And every single day I had to make the choice to keep going. I had to make that choice every day. And I'm really grateful. My husband, we were like this from the beginning.
That's remarkable, because that could have been
a lot of people. That's not the case. Yeah. He was a little more rageful than me in the way
he's a man.
He's a man. Sometimes I'd be like, Daniel. Yeah, exactly. And, I had a sort of well-trained diplomatic corporate lady voice. And I thought, if I just share facts and if I'm just really calm, that people will understand. And that was definitely not the case. And it got really, really bad. And I resigned in February of 2022. And it was really heartbreaking to walk away from this place that I loved and to lose friends.
Grew up in and found your identity in and had your children birthed in. You just went through the whole scenario
really
of what went on at Levi's. And so
it'll always make me sad. Yeah, it was sad.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was hard. But it was sort of like quitting gymnastics. It's a very traumatic thing. And you don't realize it at the time, but it's opening another door.
Has it opened doors.
Yeah. I mean, the only other thing that compares my life was getting divorced. And, these things, these really traumatic events that feel like major failures that just knock you on your butt. If you can find the strength to get up and keep trying, a new door will open.
There's I don't know how many life lessons that I'm going to have to go back and rewatch this and maybe do a summary underneath of life lessons by Jennifer Sey, because there's another one. Restate what you just said.
Every major failure I've only quit 3 things in my life. 3 things. I wrote a whole book, a chapter in the book about this. There's 3 things I quit. I quit gymnastics. Could argue I didn't really quit, but got beaten to a pulp and just didn't get back up eventually. I got divorced and I quit my job at Levi's after 23 years at the company. All of them were heartbreaking.
And I would say that you didn't even quit your job at Levi's. Maybe you would, maybe you can't, maybe, I don't know, but I think you had no choice there either. So
there wasn't a ton of
options left.
Yeah. But I resigned, and all 3 of those decisions were torturous, really heartbreaking.
So let's talk about that just for a second, because if someone's listening to this, they may not be having to leave a 25 whatever year job or a whole dream of gymnastics or even getting a divorce, but they have to make hard decisions too about things in their life that aren't good for them anymore, that they need to walk away from. And so many people don't have the courage to walk away.
I know. And yet you see, not to kind of just like switch things up, but you also see the opposite now, which is I feel like people quit things too soon sometimes. And so I have the opposite problem. I don't quit soon enough. I have this self-knowledge. I know this. I'm very conscious of it. I will be beaten and bloody and bleeding on the floor before I say uncle. So I'm trying to get better at that. I think it's different for everybody what that point is. I mean, yeah, it's a different, I mean, I feel like I should have walked away from gymnastics like at least a year earlier. But for me, unless I've tried everything, I know I won't feel good about the decision.
You'll always second guess it.
I'll
That's how I
always-
feel about things. I have to know, like I have to,
And I have to know I
beyond.
tried everything.
Mhm.
But sometimes I sacrifice my own well-being in doing that, and that's hard. But I just feel like now the culture is so like, you can never bear one moment of discomfort. Just leave, cut your family off. So I'm sort of more proud of being the way I am,
Yeah.
But in each of those instances, what was absolute heartbreak and real sadness, if not depression, in each instance, when I dusted myself off and got back up after mourning, I found a new path that was more joyful and energizing. I'm married now. My husband is the best guy in the world. I opened he's the only person that's ever told me to take up more space, not less.
Mhm.
Say it louder. See, now I'll cry.
I got tissues, so let me know if you need
No one in my life has ever said that.
even I guess gymnastics was shrinking you into a box, but it's like you're a world or US champion. Like, isn't that a lot of space? Isn't that taking up?
No space. I mean, you knew in the gym, if you made the national team and you were sent to Worlds, if you backtalked or was a quarter pound overweight at the weigh-in, you would just they would go to the alternate and you wouldn't compete. That world, I mean, I have fought long and hard to come out of my obedient shell. If I can do it, anyone can do it.
So he wants you to take up more space. What does that mean?
Say what you think. Say it louder. Keep saying it. Don't be so nice.
Except to him.
Don't be so nice about how you say it. Just say it. Just say it. Be bigger, be louder. You don't have to shrink yourself. So how lucky am I that I, had a tough first run, got 2 amazing kids. And now, I mean, I knew, not to kind of depart into the personal, but I knew when I got divorced that I was not done and that I had not found my person yet and that I would. So after I mourned for a while, I got up, and that's another show. I started dating with a vengeance, but we don't have to talk about that now. But I'm lucky. I met my person.
But you got back up. That
I
life
got back
lesson
up.
again.
Yes, I got back up.
And I'm sorry to keep bringing it back to gymnastics, but if that teaches you to get back up on broken bones and all the things, and so you got back up.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is in gymnastics, I always say this all the time: nothing will ever be as hard as that was. Like, you're 16, you haven't eaten in 2 days, your ankle is broken, and you do an 8-hour practice, and you're just yelled at. Like, I'm sorry, nothing's that hard. Call me mean names on the internet. Good luck with that actually having an impact.
Speaking of names on the internet, since we've shared that you're going to be on here, like, we get a lot of hate at Moms for Liberty. It's sometimes on Facebook alone, there's just hundreds, if not thousands.
Did I bring more hate?
You brought extra hate. Like, people, I'm sorry, I don't want people.
No, that's not.
You have quite a bit of haters that are
like, what kind?
Do you not read the comments? Some people don't read comments.
I don't.
Yeah, I read every comment on all our socials, which is a sickness in itself. Yeah, no, they're just unkind to you about looks, about anything. I mean, it was just the craziest, like, picking apart of you.
Yeah.
I mean, I read all the ones where they say about me. Every now and then they pick apart something about my looks, but I mean,
the looks thing is weird.
They come after your looks a ton, I feel like, and I don't. It's such a weird thing, because if you think about it, you were called all these names when you were younger about your looks, and body images, or I don't even know what you've dealt with, and now it's like Satan's been unleashed on you, like, to find that same crack on social media to come after you.
Yeah, good thing I don't care. Well, they reveal themselves to be
so
like,
stupid.
They're just pathetic losers. Like, these are the people on the left, I assume, that are making these
Oh, I'm
comments.
sure.
Who
they're just social media trolls.
Who are just feminists, who are criticizing a woman for her looks, who are telling the morbidly obese with, pink hair and blue hair and 27 pierces, you go girl. And they're telling me that I'm disgusting and whatever, leave me alone. Plus, you know what? I'm 56 years old. I'm doing pretty well. You just don't know what a woman who doesn't get a lot of fillers.
We have a
looks
swerve.
like.
We have a swerve jar on Amy's desk
sorry.
out there
Okay,
for you.
sorry. You don't know what a woman
the-
who doesn't get a lot of plastic surgery and fillers looks like. So leave me alone.
Episode 17, and you're the first cuss word.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You got me riled up, but yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for the warning. I won't look at the comments, but yeah, lately I get a lot for looks, which I don't know. I can't. It's so weird.
No, you're beautiful. You're like
But
you're
even
just,
if I'm
you're
not,
in
who
shape.
cares?
You're
Like,
happy, but
even if I'm ugly, really, you're going to call a really ugly woman ugly?
I don't
Like,
think
what?
they would. I don't think they would.
Sure, they would.
If they were against whatever they're talking about.
Sure, they would.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, it is weird though, right? I mean, it seems, again, let me go back. Trespass of their own stated values. These are the most hypocritical, ridiculous. Like, first of all, if you resort to name calling, you have no argument.
100%.
Name calling is the purview of those with no argument. If you don't address the content of what I'm saying, you have no argument. If you're going to call me a Nazi, I'm Jewish, a racist, I have Black children, and then you're going to then you're just going to go to your ugly. I mean, do you expect me to care what you say?
I think we just cracked the code. That's why they can't do Nazi because you're Jewish. They can't do racist because you have Black children. I know, but what's left? You're ugly.
I'm ugly.
You're ugly. Your mom is mean. I don't know. Okay.
Anyway,
let's spend this last segment talking about XXXY.
Okay. I feel really honored that I provoked the most trolls. Like I feel like that's a prize or something. Do I get it?
It is at Moms for Liberty. Well, you can go back to the merch store on the way out. Not that you don't have your own fabulous
I know, but
merch.
I'll get something.
We can point out that XXXY has quality products. But, and you're wearing the beautiful shirt now. And you can show the camera
and the
angle.
skirt.
And I call it a running
skirt.
She calls it a tennis skirt. She even has XXXY socks on. I don't know if the cameras can see those, but that's not even what your company's about.
No, so after I left Levi's, I took a moment to kind of mourn and dust myself off. And I actually started interviewing for corporate jobs, big jobs, CEO jobs. And I was told I would have to apologize for what I had done in 2023. So
what'd you do? Remind us what you did.
I said schools should open during COVID.
So corporate America
was like, yeah, you're not coming back. I mean, for anyone who says, I know no one listening here, but anyone who says cancellation isn't real, it's real. So I realized I was going to have to do something different. So I decided to start my own brand using my athletic background, fashion experience. I looked at all the athletic brands out there that claim to stand up for women, that do no such thing. They make a lot of money off of pretending to stand up for women. So I felt like I'm going to make a high quality premium athletic wear brand that actually stands up for female athletes, empowers them. And our mission, at least now in the early days, is to fight for fair competition for female athletes.
Such a simple mission that shouldn't have to be fought for in the year 2025, especially since you started right after Title IX launched your athletic career. You've created some amazing viral ads, and we're going to just take a break for 1 minute.
Okay.
And, brace yourself, guys, if you haven't seen this ad where I would say XXXY is calling out truth and what's going on, calling out those that have been violating women's sports. Maybe let's watch this video.
Dear Nike.
Dear Nike.
Dear Nike.
Why won't you stand up for me? Why won't you stand up for me? Why won't you?
Why do you claim to support women and girls?
Yet when we need you most, you remain silent.
Today, males are claiming our identity,
our sports,
our spaces.
Men and boys are stealing opportunities, medals,
trophies,
and our future.
And it's not fair or just.
In fact, it's often dangerous. Yet you refuse to use your platform to stand up.
You say you're for social justice and progress.
So why do you allow men's rights to come before ours?
See, with a big platform
comes an even bigger responsibility.
You have a chance to do the right thing,
not just do the easy thing.
So we're asking you, Nike.
So we're asking you, Nike.
So we're asking you, Nike.
As the biggest voice in all of sports.
Will you stand up for me? Will you stand up for me? Will you stand up for me?
Will you stand up for me? Will you?
Will you?
Will you just do it?
Welcome back to the Fire of Liberty show. I'm Tina Descovich, co-founder, CEO of Moms for Liberty. And we've got Jennifer Sey, the founder of XXXY Athletics. And that was a commercial of hers that went viral calling out Nike.
Yeah. We made that last October. On October 10th, we released it, which is XX Day, 10/10. We made it for peanuts. We spent almost nothing to make it. And I think
so well done.
Yeah, we have an awesome creative director. His name is Brett Craig. He's a fellow canceled traveler, good friend. He has genius ideas that just sort of cut right through. And yeah, I mean, Nike's the biggest name in sports. Their revenue is 2x that of the NFL, 4x or 5x that of the NBA.
Wow.
A huge company, struggling a little bit right now, but still huge. $50 billion company, something like that.
No concept of that.
Is really, really big. They make a lot of money off of pretending to support female athletes. They treat women with astonishing disregard, both female employees as well as their athlete endorsers. And I will tell you this, we released that in October before the executive order in February, and before everything that's happened with the NCAA and the USOPC. If Nike took a stand right now, everyone would fall in line. I'm telling you. Think about it. They have the biggest female athletes in sports. They have so much influence. If they just said, we support fair competition for female athletes. I mean, they're doing the opposite. Yeah, I'm sure you're familiar with the study they were funding to better understand how much young boys could be impaired to fairly compete with girls. I mean, this is research they're funding. They sponsor an exhibit at the Smithsonian, Fair or Foul, about boys and girls sports, which of course is incredibly biased and says we're all ridiculous for thinking it's a problem. So yeah, we called Nike out. It's not we're a tiny little challenger brand. We're going to punch up a little bit. And I don't know. I'd love to see them join this fight.
What I noticed about it, though, it wasn't adult females that you had.
No, it's kids.
You used children to deliver the message. And
yeah, that's who we're fighting for. Mm-hmm. Although I will say one of the things I find for all the change that's happened in the last, I guess, since Trump became president again for the second time, all the change that has happened, not a single professional or Olympic level athlete that's currently competing. So there are some that aren't currently competing.
Haven't spoken up?
Not one that currently competes.
Are you serious?
Now, people always yell at me, well, Martina, but she doesn't compete now. She's in her 70s. No currently competing female athlete.
Lack of courage, ladies, lack of courage, because we have girls in middle school and high school stepping off of podiums. We have them forfeiting their games. Granted, it's not tied to $1 million deal.
That's why.
But
they don't want to get canceled. They don't want to lose endorsements. They don't want any of it. Not one has stood up and said, I believe in protecting women's sports. Not one. Think about that. That's how far we are. It's crazy to me. Every day I think about this, Tina. 80% of Americans agree with us. I think it's actually higher. And there's an executive order, so it's the law of the land. And both the NCAA and the U.S. Olympic Committee have set a policy that says women's sports are for women only now, recently. And yet we say this and you get the trolls for me being on, like, people are still terrified.
It must be big. So if we've got the government falling in line now, but you don't have big corporate America yet falling in line, if Nike is still holding the line to
even the media, the mainstream media or the legacy media still presents it. This is the tyranny of the minority. This is a minority opinion that we are all being bullied and badgered.
Because they have the power.
Because they have the institutional power.
So thank you for starting a company to stand up against, creating amazing videos in not just that one, but you have multiple ones that I think have inspired and gone viral, millions and millions.
Yeah, I think that one had over 10 million views in like a few days. So, but to go back to what I was saying about Levi's, like, I think that my skill, I believe that brands influence culture. And I think more of that 80% would speak out if they don't know how. But you could just wear a t-shirt to your kid's soccer game and you say what you think. And more and more when I wear this product around Denver, and even some days I'm like, oh, I don't want to deal with it. More often than not, someone will come up to me and say, thank you for what you're doing. Or if they don't know that it's my brand, I like that. That's cool. I agree with you.
That's got to feel great.
Yeah. I've only really had one very unpleasant interaction over it in Denver, which is very blue.
Yeah.
But I stood my ground and had a very calm, conversation, but it gives people the tools. Cause I think a lot of people, you guys must find this as well. They want to be involved, but they don't know what to do or say.
Wearing a shirt is pretty darn easy. And you're saying like XXXY Athletics, like it's
pretty obvious
so
what
easy.
it means. Yeah. And it kind of moves the Overton window. It normalizes saying this very true thing that the vast majority of Americans, they've been bullying us into silence. So it seems like, because they're louder, that they're the majority, but they're not. So I just tell people, just wear the t-shirt to your daughter's soccer game. You don't have to say anything.
So let's wrap this up and bring your whole story, like tie it all up with a pretty bow. Okay. What are you doing now? Like, what have you pulled from gymnastics, from Levi, from the hate, from the cancel? How does all that tie into XXXY and your life now and your mission now and what you're doing from day to day?
I think if you speak the truth will out in the end. It's going to be really hard, but you just got to stick with it. Keep working, keep speaking truth, be kind, and have fun and surround yourself with people that share your values, which doesn't mean agree with you on everything.
I think that's an important point. We don't have to agree ever on a lot of things, but you can still be kind to one another. You could still listen, take time to understand each other's point of view, and have respect for one another.
Yeah. And I like it. My company, which is small, there's just 7-10 of us, depending how you count. We come from really different backgrounds. Some of us are religious. Some of us are not. Some of us are lifelong conservatives. Some of us are not. But we all agree that girls deserve equal opportunity. We share that. And we all believe in open debate and dissent in the company. We have those conversations all the time. We all believe in being respectful. And so it works. And I think everybody comes at it from a slightly different perspective, which is actually really useful.
That's the whole idea of having diversity of thought and discussion. And that's what's important.
And no HR.
And no HR. I introduced
joke,
I introduced Jennifer this morning to our HR later. And that was a fun conversation. And so I think we have a code. Did we look into that?
M4L15.
So the website is
if you go to thetruthfits.com or xx-xyathletics.com. But the truth fits is easier to remember. And when you're checking out, you put in M4L15, you get 15% off your whole order.
Go there now and pick up your XXXY merchandise. Support this great company that has high quality athletic wear.
Yeah.
I really want that track jacket in small. You told me it was.
Do I not have any small?
No, you were out of smalls the second day it launched.
Was I supposed to bring one?
No. You said you didn't have any. You told me to get a medium.
Okay.
And I thought, well, I have your cell, so I'll just are the smalls in yet? Yeah, I really
for the Riley coat.
Yeah.
That was limited edition, but you know what? I can check in the office and see
if there's one laying around somewhere.
Yeah.
I really like that track jacket. It takes me back to I want to be an Olympic gymnastics star vibes. And so
it's got like 1984 Olympics vibes.
100%. Yeah. So I want that jacket, and I want your business to do extremely well.
Thank
so
you.
We're happy to have you as a partner. For all those that are watching, our national summit is in 2 months, in October the 16th through the 18th in Orlando, Florida. Jennifer Sey will be there. She spoke last year. I wanted to show a clip of that. I think I forgot to clip that for today.
That was fun.
You did a great job.
Oh, thanks.
That picture on stage of
so
all of
good.
us is so good. She is the ultimate joyful warrior. She's overcome so much, produced so much, excelled so much. And I think it's because you are your authentic self, to use that's right. that term. And so thank you for joining us today on the Fire of Liberty show. I'm Tina Descovich, your host, CEO, co-founder, Moms for Liberty. We had Jennifer Sey, the founder and CEO of XXXY. Go check it out, thetruthfits.com.